This is every level of UFC robbery, explained. Part 2. Level 1. Level 1 is where fans lose their minds over decisions that are technically defensible. These fights are close, but the internet still explodes. Josh Emmett versus Calvin Kattar at UFC Austin, June 2022. Kattar outlanded Emmett 130 significant strikes to 107. He pieced him up in rounds 4 and 5, landing 41-21 and 34-22. Emmett's eye was swollen shut from Kattar's jab, but Emmett throws every punch like he's trying to cave your skull in. His hooks made noise even when they hit Kattar's guard. The judges gave it to Emmett 48-47, 48-47. 14 out of 19 media members scored it for Kattar. Dana White said, "I had it 3-2 Kattar, but I'm not a judge. This is power versus volume in its purest form." Angela Hill versus Claudia Gadelha, Jacksonville 2020. Hill landed 90 significant strikes to Gadelha's 84. She scored the only knockdown of the fight. Gadelha was bleeding. Hill remained unmarked, but in round 3, Gadelha clinched Hill against the fence and held her there, doing 0 damage. 2 judges gave Gadelha the round anyway, awarding her the split decision. 13 of 17 media outlets scored it for Hill. This happened when the rules were updated to prioritize damage over control. The judges didn't get the memo. Song Yadong versus Marlon Vera, same event. Vera outlanded Yadong in total strikes and secured 2 takedowns. Yadong landed sharper shots that looked prettier. All 3 judges gave it to Yadong 29-28. 65% of fans scored it for Vera. When the decision was read, Vera said and refused to shake Yadong's hand. Level 2. Level 2 is where the right guy wins, but one judge turns in a scorecard so insane it makes you question reality. Paul Felder versus Rafael dos Anjos, November 2020. RDA dominated. He secured 6 takedowns to Felder's 1. He had over 11 minutes of control time. 2 judges scored it 50-45 for RDA, but Judge Chris Lee scored it 48-47 for Felder. That means Lee gave Felder 3 rounds in a fight where RDA was sitting on him. 20 out of 20 media members scored it for RDA. Even Felder looked embarrassed. Dana White called it absolute insanity. Level 3. Level 3 is where the sport eats itself. Damage versus control. Strikers versus wrestlers. Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland, December 2022. Strickland outlanded Cannonier 152-141, mostly with his jab, but Cannonier's shots were power hooks that visibly hurt Strickland. 2 judges scored it 49-46 for Cannonier. 1 scored it 49-46 for Strickland. 2 49-46 scores going opposite directions means the judges fundamentally disagreed on what winning means. The media was split 50-50. Christian Rodriguez versus Isaac Dulgarian, March 2024. Dulgarian dominated round 1 with a 10-8 performance. He controlled over 9 minutes of the fight, but he gassed out. Rodriguez came alive in round 3. The judges gave it to Rodriguez via split decision. 100% of media members disagreed. 89% of fans scored it for Dulgarian or a draw. This decision killed the value of grappling in modern MMA. Valentina Shevchenko versus Taila Santos, UFC 275, June 2022. Santos took Shevchenko down, took her back, and threatened chokes. She made the champion look human. 2 judges gave it to Shevchenko, 48-47 and 49-46. The 49-46 scorecard implied Shevchenko won 4 rounds, when Santos clearly won at least 2 with back control. This was textbook champion's advantage. Level 4. Level 4 is where geography decides the winner. If you're the visiting fighter, you better knock them out. Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Carlos Leal, UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi, October 2024. Leal outstruck Fakhretdinov. He stuffed 17 of 19 takedown attempts. Rinat looked exhausted. The judges gave it to Rinat unanimously, including 130-27. 16 out of 16 media members scored it for Leal. 0 scored it for Rinat. John Anik, Daniel Cormier, and Paul Felder were openly disgusted on the broadcast. This was voted the worst decision of 2024. Modestas Bukauskas versus Ion Cutelaba, UFC 315 in Montreal, May 2025. Cutelaba was the aggressor, outlanding Bukauskas in rounds 1 and 2. Judge Pasquale Procopio, a Montreal native, scored it 30-27 for Bukauskas. Another judge scored it 30-27 for Cutelaba. Daniel Cormier called it trash live on air. Kai Kara France versus Amir Albazi, June 2023. Kara France outlanded Albazi 99-43 in every single round. Albazi secured only 1 of 9 takedowns. The judges gave it to Albazi 48-47, 48-47. 19 of 21 media members scored it for Kara France. This killed Kara France's title shot and handed Albazi one he didn't earn. Level 5. Level 5 is where the institution intervenes. Judges get fired mid-event. Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Tai Tuivasa, UFC 305 in Perth, August 2024. Rozenstruik outlanded Tuivasa in every round. Two judges scored it correctly, but Judge Howie Booth scored it 30-27 for Tuivasa. Immediately after, the Combat Sports Commission physically removed Booth from the arena. He was scheduled to judge the co-main, but was fired on the spot. Dana White said, "It was one of the worst scorecards I've ever seen. A judge getting fired mid-event is almost unprecedented." Juliana Pena versus Raquel Pennington, UFC 307, October 2024. For the bantamweight title, Pennington landed more strikes in rounds 4 and 5. She dropped Pena with the only knockdown. Pena's face was battered. Two judges gave it to Pena 48-47. 96% of media members scored it for Pennington. Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier gasped on camera when Pena won. Robbery trended #1 worldwide. Level 6. Level 6 is where the numbers scream one thing and the judges say another. Gleison Tibau versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, UFC 148, July 2012. Before Khabib became the undefeated king, he fought Tibau. Khabib attempted 13 takedowns and landed 0. Tibau landed 1 takedown. Tibau outstruck Khabib 46-33 total strikes and 28-25 significant strikes. Tibau controlled the center and stuffed every single wrestling attempt. All 3 judges scored it 30-27 for Khabib. A clean sweep. 5 of 6 major media outlets scored it for Tibau. This is the asterisk on the perfect record, the only fight where Khabib lost every statistical category, yet won unanimously. Mayron Santos versus Francis Marshall, UFC 313, March 2025. Marshall scored a knockdown and secured takedowns in rounds 2 and 3. 13 out of 13 media members scored it for Marshall. The judges gave it to Santos. Here's the kicker. Santos himself admitted, "I went back and saw he had won it." When the winner admits he lost, the system is broken. Sherdog named this robbery of the year for 2025. Ayman Zahabi versus Jose Aldo, UFC 315, May 2025. Aldo's retirement fight. He landed cleaner, harder shots in rounds 1 and 2. Zahabi won round 3 clearly, but the judges gave Zahabi rounds 1 and 2 as well, awarding him a unanimous 29-28. 16 of 20 media members scored it for Aldo. Aldo left his gloves in the cage, retiring on a loss he didn't deserve. Level 7. Level 7 is where careers end and the sport's credibility dies. Ross Pearson versus Diego Sanchez, Albuquerque, June 2014. Diego's hometown. Diego flailed wildly, punching air. Pearson landed 51 significant strikes to Diego's 33. Pearson dropped Sanchez in round 2. Judge Jeff Collins scored it 30-27 for Sanchez. 98% of fans scored it for Pearson. The UFC reportedly paid Pearson his win bonus anyway. This is the gold standard of robberies. Georges St-Pierre versus Johnny Hendricks, UFC 167. November 2013. Hendricks beat GSP up. GSP's face was swollen and bruised. Hendricks looked fresh. The swing round was round 1. 2 judges gave it to GSP, awarding him the split decision. GSP vacated the belt and left for 4 years. Hendricks spiraled into losing streaks. This fight broke both men. And that's every level of UFC robbery, part 2. The judges aren't getting better. They're just finding new ways to steal fights.